Hey y'all, how you doing? Valerie here. I garden in the heart of the Appalachian Mountains in Zone 6B, West Virginia. And today I'm going to be winter sowing my first jug. Now, this is not a video about winter sowing. There are whole channels dedicated just to that topic, or mostly to that topic. So if you want a more in-depth explanation, you can go there. But I will kind of give you a quick run-through of what winter sowing is. Winter sowing is not taking your seeds and throwing them out in the middle of winter and planting them. That is completely different, completely separate. What winter sowing is you take a jug. A lot of people use milk jugs. There are different things you can use. Some people even use like gallon-size plastic baggies. Like I said, if you want to know more about those things or alternative ways, just Google winter sowing methods and you're going to find all kinds of information. What I really like to use the winter sowing method for is for things that need a cold period before they're able to germinate. And I find that the winter sowing method works particularly well for those items. It also works for annuals too, and like I said, if you want to know more about all the things that you can grow this way, just put it in Google or put it in YouTube and go down that rabbit hole. For the sake of this video, I'm going to try to keep it relevant to what I'm doing today. But what you do is you take a jug, like I said, usually a milk jug or some kind of clear jug. And what you would do is you punch holes in the bottom and you go up about 1 inch and you put a hole on the side, and this will let water drain over the season. And you fill this up with dirt, you plant your seeds in it. In this case, since it's got such a big opening and it's not a milk jug, I also poked holes in my lid. But if you were using a milk jug, you would just keep the cap off because you want the snow and the rain and all the moisture to fall into your jug to water your seedlings. But doing it this way frees up space in a greenhouse, and it also is kind of like, as long as you get winter precipitation, you kind of just put it out and forget about it until springtime. Right now is a little bit early for most things to be winter sown. You normally wouldn't do that until sometime between December and February, depending on the seed, depending on how cold it gets in your area. So that is not blanket information. You will have to go look up information specific to your zone. And there are all kinds of people that do winter and jug sowing in every different zone in the United States. But I got these black American elderberries. I have an elderberry plant over there, or I had an elderberry plant over there, and if you've been watching me for any length of time, you may have seen that I coppiced it a few years ago because it basically wasn't thriving anymore. It was getting real leggy and just not producing very many berries and had a lot of dead growth. So I coppiced it, and it got weed-eated down one too many times after that, so it seems to be dead. The first time the hubby weed-eated it down and it came back, and the second time I weed-eated it down and it didn't come back because I just wasn't thinking. I was in the zone and just hacking at the weeds, and of course I got the branch that was growing and it doesn't seem to be coming back. So I ordered these American black elderberry seeds because that's what I had. Mine was wild here. I didn't plant it. It just came up. And I wanted to replace it, so I ordered seeds. But on this seed package, it says for outdoor planting, sow 2 to 3 seeds 10 inches apart in fall. For indoor planting, warm stratifast seeds for 60 days, which that means you give them a warm period for 60 days, and then cold stratify for 60 days, which means that they need a cold period for at least 60 days. So 3 to 4 seeds per pot at a 1/4 inch deep. Keep moist, sunny area. Okay, for me, I'm not going to plant them outside because I don't have a place prepped, but also I kind of just want to let nature take care of the warm and cold cycle. And since it would normally be planted out in fall if I were direct sowing, I figured this would be a great time to just go ahead and winter sow it. That keeps my seedlings in one place. I can easily check on them to make sure if they need anything, to make sure they're growing. They're less likely to be eaten by pests while they're small. Plus, if you've ever tried to direct sow things, a million things can go wrong. So I decided to jug sow it, and honestly, The first step to this is to just put soil in it. So I'm going to fill this up with soil and then we'll get to planting. When you're filling your jug, you want to make sure you've got a good 4 to 5 inches of soil in it. Personally, I like to wet my soil before I plant, so I'm going to go do that and then I will be right back. Okay, now that my soil's wet, I want to give you a couple other tips that I personally like to use for my winter sowing. Make sure, what I like to do is I like to write whatever I am planting on the actual jug itself, on the outside. And I use these garden markers because these are the longest lasting markers that I've used, are the specific garden markers. Don't get a Sharpie unless it says garden marker, I don't know. Sharpie may have a garden marker brand. But I get the Artline garden markers, and they're the least likely thing that I've found besides maybe using a laser printer to make sure that you're going to still be able to read it in the spring. So what I will do is, like, I will write American Black Elderberry on the outside of the jug. So I've got my American Black Elderberry, and then I'll put the date that I sowed it. And then, because you never know what's going to happen, sometimes things do come off even despite your best intentions, I also make a tag, American Black Elderberry, and then let's put the date. The reason I like to put it on the outside as well as use a tag is because sometimes you have a hard time looking down in there to read your tag. So if you're kind of just being curious and you want to know how things are doing, you might forget what it is, and sometimes it can be hard to read those tags in the jug. It's not as hard in these kind of containers. It becomes more important when you're using the milk jugs because they've only got a tiny little hole and they're not completely clear, a lot of them. A good rule of thumb is if you can see your hand through the container, you can probably winter sow in it. You don't want anything too opaque, is what I'm trying to get at. You want something that's, you can have stuff that's slightly opaque like most milk jugs. Some milk jugs are completely opaque or brown or different colored. You can't really use those. Okay, now that I've got my jug, I'm going to take my seeds. I'm just going to take a few. I want to say that there's a good 8 or 10 seeds here, and I will not need all of these if they all sprout. If they do all sprout, I'll just pot them up and give them to friends or put them in a seedling sale. But I've got my jug here. I'm going to try to sprinkle these over the top to where they're not completely too close together. But if they do happen to get too close together, you can separate them later. Also, I do like to take, I have this vermiculite here. I do like to sprinkle the top of my jugs with some vermiculite. So it's got vermiculite in it. Those seeds are planted. I just put the lid on top, and now I'm going to put this in a place to where it's kind of protected so the wind doesn't blow it over if it gets too strong, but also a place where it's out in the open to where it'll get rain when it rains, because it's very important that this gets water through the winter. If you're in a place that doesn't get regular precipitation, you might need to go out and throw a little bit of water on it every once in a while, even if your ground is frozen. It doesn't take a lot though. Being in the jug, it's going to hold moisture longer than it would if it were just out in the open, you know, in an open tray. And about the wind, I know I said you like to put it somewhere kind of protected so the wind doesn't blow it over. We get strong winds, and this sometimes is an issue, but the more jugs you have bunched together, because this is just my first jug, I'll probably have at least a dozen by the time it's over with, if not more. It just depends on how much I decide to winter sow this year. When you bunch the jugs together, it keeps the whole thing from being blown over by the wind. So this is just the first one, so I'm more worried about it. As I get more and more jugs with this one, it'll be less and less of an issue. And honestly, it might not be an issue. It might be bottom heavy enough where it won't tip. I have had jugs tip before. Usually you just stand them back up and they're fine though. I know that was a big old information dump, considering I said this wasn't going to be about winter sowing. And it is, but it isn't, because there's a whole lot more information that explains the whys, the timing. Here's a little tip. You can do just about any plant that you can grow in your zone. Almost anything can be winter sown. But it's just a hands-off way, and I particularly like using it for things like perennials that need stratification or vernalization. It just does all that for you. You don't even have to think about it. I'm going to go put this jug in place, and then I'm going to meet you inside. We're going to go inside and do a seed haul, and I will show you some seeds that I've got for next spring. And this is also another good tip for seeds, for seed shopping. Right now, a lot of the seeds that were for the 2025 year are going on sale because they're trying to clear out as much stock as they can before they put the 2026 varieties out here in a month to maybe 2 months, because they come out usually around November, December. So September and October are really good times to start looking for seed sales for your 2025, you know, for their 2025 seed stock. And I've gotten a lot of these seeds discounted, so I've been putting in my orders, and I'm just going to show you what I've gotten. Okay, I'm going to now do a seed haul for you. I've ordered from a few different places. The first place that I got seeds from is Seed Therapy, and because they were all on sale, I was able to get several. This year, I'm going to try some gardens that with flowers outside of my fenced area that are supposedly deer and rodent proof. I know that a lot of things that say they aren't actually deer proof, so I want to give a few different things to try and just see what the deer actually eat and don't eat. So you might hear like a lot of flowers. It's because I'm planning on doing some flowers that don't have to be fenced in, so we can see if they are actually deer proof. So I've got this apricot peony aster, and this is from Seed Therapy. And Seed Therapy does seem to have a seed store on the internet, but I got these from Etsy. They have really good reviews. Whenever I order seeds from Etsy, I just look at, are their reviews good and how many reviews are there? Because if they've got all good reviews, but they've only got 5 of them, I'm less likely to take that seriously as someone who has really good reviews, but they've got 30,000 reviews. Aster Needle Nose Mix. Celosia Flamingo Feather. Purple Ruffle Basil. Apple Blossom Stock. Royal Snap Peas. These are purple potted. Status Pink Poker, also known as Russian Status. Apple Blossom Snapdragon. Day and Night Snapdragon. And Lavender Elegant Snow. This is a white one. I also got Calendula Sunset Bluff. Coralberry. American Cranberry. American Black Elderberry. And Crimson Clover. So that's all from Seed Therapy. I'm going to go ahead and put these back in my envelope real quick. So the next place that I got seeds from was Seedville USA. And I got this off of Etsy as well. And what I ordered was this Winged Everlasting. These are really cute little flowers that are everlastings that you can dry and they'll keep their shape and color. And then it came with this free gift of wildflower seeds. That's the only thing I got from there. This next one is from a place called Seed Geeks. And once again, I got these from Etsy. The store name is Seed Geeks, and these were all on sale. I got this Pompon High No Maru China Aster. I got this Barlow Mixed Columbine. Pacific Mix Status. Baby Snapdragon, also known as Moroccan Toadflax. It's not actually a snapdragon, it's Linaria Morocana. Aster Pom Pom Blue Moon. Billy Buttons. Gumfarina. And Paper Daisy. A lot of these seeds that I've shown you are supposed to be deer and rabbit resistant. So we're going to give it a try. The last place I've got seeds from is Baker's Creek, and I got lime basil because I don't have any, and it's fantastic. Lemon basil because I don't have any more, and it's fantastic. And this double diamond pearl yarrow because it kind of looks like baby's breath to me. And then I got this petunia super Bessemia Ceres Triumph mix. I planted these this year and I only had one that actually made it, but the flowers on it are like this big. They're huge. So I definitely want to be a little bit more gentle and baby these a little bit more than I did last year. And my free gift was the Lucky Tiger tomato. Alright, thank you guys so much for hanging out with me while I winter sowed my first jug and brought you along for this seed haul. I can't wait to see and hear what you guys are growing out there, so leave me a message below and let me know what seeds you've already ordered for your 2026 season. Thank you so much for watching. I will see you next time. Bye.